Next, I'm going to concentrate on our work, Esri's work, and what we're doing, especially first focused in the technology areas. And we now are beginning to call our ecosystem of tools the Esri Geospatial Cloud, which is anchored in ArcGIS, but also has some parallel technologies in mapping and developer tools and content, and something emerging called geospatial-enabled systems. We'll start with ArcInfo and its architecture. ArcInfo, yes. How many of you were ArcInfo users? Oh man, I love you guys. For those of you who don't know what ArcInfo was, you're in the wrong room. Look, ArcGIS is designed as a comprehensive platform by design, and it's designed to support you doing your work better. That's as best as I can describe it. That's what drives us in our engineering department and in our company. It's designed to be an open system. It's designed to be services. It's designed to be distributed. Exactly what I've been talking about. It can support both comprehensive GIS work as well as the simple mapping and location work that is becoming very popular today in the non-GIS community. We've also put a lot of emphasis in the last year on developers and launched a whole new developer program, much like the sort of Google Map developer program, but with much richer capabilities. ArcGIS central point, central part, is something I like to call the portal. People criticize me for calling it the portal. They think it's really just ArcGIS. But I want to call out this portal's capability because it's the ability to organize and manage all the aspects of geospatial infrastructure, including content, apps that are shared, services, resulting information products in a shared social collaboration environment. And that requires the ability to have people with identity and the ability to organize groups for sharing or not sharing. This portal anchors the ability to integrate virtually any kind of geospatial data, but those of you in this audience particularly know that just virtually any data is geospatial data, almost, including imagery and tabular data, text data, now BIM data, CAD data, 3D data, big data, etc. And through that portal, make it available openly through open APIs and apps that extend the accessibility to this notion of bringing it all together. And you particularly understand how those two sort of hourglass things work in the context of a distributed GIS. I can take data across the network and bring it together and serve it out into any device, anywhere, anytime. Now, that system is designed to empower different aspects of an organization. It takes care of the system of record keeping, the back office, doing data management. And also, that same system is designed to support analytics or give insight. And that same system is designed to support engagement between other parts of an organization and also the public. Openness is one of the themes at the architectural level of ArcGIS. ArcGIS is open with respect to supporting all the standards, and with respect to how do we define what an open platform is, open standards is really important. We not only define those, the support for those standards, but we also participate in creating and sharing our IP to help their development. Also, it means having open APIs and open data streaming, the ability to have open source software connections with our tools through things like Python and Python notebooks, and also the integration of some of the rich world of open data science software right into the platform. We're going to be sharing some of that later today. I'll now shift to the capabilities part of this platform. And this is the area where we spend a lot of money. We spend about 1/3 of our revenue, basically your money, on driving this agenda, improving capabilities, improving functionality, introducing new things. And so this is kind of a report card from me reflecting the work of about 1,200 engineers to you. And one of the purposes of this meeting is not simply to tell you how wonderful things are, but it's to get feedback from you about where we have some gaps or we screwed up. So that's part of the purpose of this meeting and actually all of our interactions. Well, let me start with content. ArcGIS Online's content is continuing to grow. It has now over 20 million shared items from you to you. It also has thousands of information layers we call the living atlas, base maps, imagery, scientific sensors. In the last year, we've added some interesting things. New vector feature base maps that allow you to render the vector feature tiles according to your own style. It also includes a new dynamic OpenStreetMap, which means that as people are updating OpenStreetMap around the world, within minutes, those updates update Esri's version of OpenStreetMap that is served out for your use. It also now integrates in the European satellites Sentinel-2 data and allows us to manipulate imagery looking back. It's called Way Back, and clarify some new styles. This living atlas is full of rich content. And by the way, a lot of it is your content. We host hundreds of the A16 data layers and serve them out in various forms openly. We also have open web services of those data sets so that you can stream them into your own applications. These are curated and authoritative source information sets. And by the way, it is in that library that the NatureServe rich biodiversity hotspot areas will go into. We've been making improvements in dynamic web mapping. We refer to this as smart mapping. This is done using our JavaScript API, enabling everybody to make really fantastic maps by using machine learning concepts and being able to render maps beautifully based on what super cartographers would apply, like some of you are, by the way. These are dynamic and data-driven smart mapping tools. It's part of the effort to democratize GIS and allow mere mortals to make really beautiful maps. A lot of improvements here on fast display, fast rendering, and I'll come back to this in a moment. In the more traditional settings, again, lots of new tools added, like reference grids, support for MGRS, UTM zone clipping. These are, again, things that are largely driven by you in this very community. And then new tools for integration of Adobe, the Adobe Cloud, with ArcGIS. So Adobe tools now can be a perfectly legitimate client for ArcGIS's services. And then improvements in mapping and traditional cartography, and more improvements in the Maps for Microsoft tool suite. In the 3D space, again, a rich vocabulary of improvements, including integration of smart mapping into that same domain, but also being able to move it right across the family of applications, introducing new rich 3D symbols, and being able to look at the whole world from any device, kind of like think Google Map, Google Earth, globe, but with your data on any device, anywhere, anytime. And there's advancing work being done in AR and VR tools as well. This is particularly useful for citizen engagement or seeing or simulating what might be. In the analytics environment, the parallel to 3D visualization, also lots of new improvements here in things like 3D measurement. And look at the lower right. We're working on, and we'll release this summer, a voxel-based modeling tool that allows us to look into the ocean or look at geology or look into the atmosphere in 3D and apply some of the same tools. And these application improvements are showing up in all of the different apps, Earth, Pro, Scene Viewer, and so on. Changing gears a bit, I know many of you are active in data management. Here we're advancing the data models to support better industry models like utility data models and pipeline data models and transportation data models, but also improving editing, especially in Pro, to deal with 3D editing, stereo feature extraction, and our announcements last year are really paying off with respect to the integration of all of Autodesk's tools directly into GIS. This means that engineers can be empowered as they're doing geo-design work or engineering work. And also the models, like Revit models, the BIM models, can be put right into your GISs like long transactional updates of urban models. Some of you are interested in unstructured data, textual data, and being able to read through quickly and geo-reference based on keywords, turn a document into a map. That is now a capability that's there. In field operations, I know many of you are using Survey 123 or Collector, as we've just seen, and linking it to dashboards so that the field people can be watched and managed and helped by the executives and managers. This year we're adding two things. Listen carefully. One of them is called Tracker, and this is tracking where a person is. You can opt in by time and when you're working and so on, and be tracked. This is all about safety and effectiveness and performance. And it'll, I think, find its way very quickly into all of our apps. The other one is an app called Quick Capture, which means I can be going along and just touching things on a menu, like on a big icon menu, and capturing data about, driving at 40 miles an hour. Oh, here's a broken thing. This is a street light. I'm flying in a helicopter. I can capture and do transactions more or less in real time right into online Enterprise or ArcGIS Online, and then have other people see it. One of the most successful apps that we've ever built is Operations Dashboard. It's second only to Story Maps, and it's being deployed. I think it's Wichita and Kansas has 300 dashboards that they've set up to watch virtually everything in the city: crime, traffic, energy usage, etc. Very popular because in the last year, it's been moved from a thick client to a web-based client and made very fast. Very easy to set these up and deploy them. In the world of spatial analytics, which many of you, I think, live modeling, we've added more tools in the space-time analytics world, but I'll call your attention here to the improved processing category, where we've introduced and we'll shortly be releasing integrated notebooks. This is a big deal. You're supposed to applaud or something like that, but yeah, okay, anyway. This is hosted notebooks right in Enterprise and later inside of ArcGIS Online. What these do is it provides us an integration point for bringing together GIS and artificial intelligence and machine learning and the whole world of data science. Look at this diagram. It turns out that ArcGIS has long included valuable tools for machine learning, things like clustering, prediction, classification, regression, and so on. And that rich library implemented in geoprocessing is being integrated with independent tools that may live in other platforms like Microsoft or Amazon or IBM, and integrated using Python with things like TensorFlow or scikit-learn or other AI tools, connecting using Python notebooks and bringing back information based on training and models that are built external to the system. But to the ArcGIS user, they're suddenly empowered with AI in the background. Same sort of thing with data science tools, tools like R integration or Jupyter or Pandas, or also popular tools like SaaS offers in this same space. The integration of these is in many ways the extension of the geospatial infrastructure concept, reaching out to open science, reaching out to distributed processing, reaching into large clouds with large repositories of big data to do the heavy lifting. But the user experience is still a GIS experience. Now this hosted notebook concept I want you to particularly know about. 10.7, which is only a few weeks away, will ship in the enterprise with hosted server, hosted notebook server. It's a new server. And you'll all get this. What this allows you to do is interactive computing in an integrated way. Through a browser, I can program, code, links, kind of like Model Builder does, to distributed analytics servers, yes. I can also place my notebook servers right next to large data lakes or data stores, big data, without moving the data. And I can also integrate with that same notebook environment all kinds of these open source libraries. And then I can persist them. I can persist them and make them an item inside of the enterprise or ArcGIS Online, so that other people can take my work and be able to rerun it. And this is true not just for the modeling space, but also for routine applications like just wanting to automate, which scripting is so very good to do. In the space of imagery, we've also been making additional improvements. Some of you know that Esri has two main technologies for imagery. One is dealing with the management and serving of very large imagery sets in a dynamic environment. And the second one is analytic tools in a desktop. These are extending the ArcGIS Pro. And what do? They do advanced visualization and exploitation. They do analytics, things like change analysis over time. They now do map production, things like taking drones and make a map, doing orthophoto production, a new capability called the Ortho Maker, and also generation directly of DTMs from remotely sensed information. These three capability categories, plus the ability to manage large and serve large image libraries, round out what we call comprehensive capabilities. They're not all capabilities, and we have partners, people like Harris and BAE, who extend and work with us collaboratively on our technologies using our APIs and rich integrations. A fifth piece of our strategy here is to provide you with rich content to be able to use directly. And these are expressed inside of ArcGIS Online. Every night, 300 or 400 new Landsat images get loaded and are available to be able to directly use by these tools. Every night now, Sentinel information is available for you to be able to use these tools to exploit that environment. And through the acquisition of digital globes and base maps and radar data, and well, you can look at the list better than me reading them. It's a rich library of directly usable sensing technology, rounding out that concept of geospatial infrastructure. And many of these data sets are your data sets. We're simply serving them in ready-to-use forms for application. Similar to imagery, a second dimension of GIS is real-time or IoT sensing. Here, our work is expressed in the form of a product called the Geo Event Server. And there are now thousands of you, actually, in this audience, who are using this extension to be able to read in real-time information like cars moving around or stationary sensors like in stream flows and so forth, pipelining it through this processing engine, and then being able to give real-time alerts. Think police departments, emergency management departments, or anyone who really wants to be able to have real-time geography. Here our work has been involving increased performance and also scalability, moving from a few thousand observations a second to now over 50,000 observations a second being able to be ingested. And our research on this will later this year, about the end of the year, come up with a technology in a cloud environment that can read literally hundreds of thousands of observations a second. And this is a partnership that we have with Microsoft's Azure environment where you can connect your sensors, do real-time processing, alerting, visualization directly inside of things like ArcGIS Online. I've talked about enhancing capabilities, and that's where we spend a lot of your money. Now I want to talk about the receptacles within which these capabilities get dropped, and they are largely ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Server Enterprise or ArcGIS Online, or also the free open source templates that enhance them. We're also building a series, a family of geo-enabled systems that work with your GIS side by side for focused workflows. And we're referring to this as capabilities in the Esri Geospatial Cloud. The Esri Geospatial Cloud can be SaaS oriented, and I'll get into that more in a moment, software as a service. It can also be delivered on-prem. So unlike some of our colleagues like Autodesk Corporation or Adobe, who have moved over to a complete SaaS offering cloud, we're doing both. We're following the pattern of Microsoft that says Azure, you can have Azure SQL Server, or you can have SQL Server Azure. You get the idea? You follow this as an important kind of concept. So nothing goes away. It's just that our customers have been asking us to provide increasing SaaS services for everything. And this will become clearer as I go forward here. Pro is one of our leading products. How many of you here use Pro? Okay. Learn Pro. Look, it's a joke, really. We will continue supporting ArcMap for many years, long into the future. But all of our innovation is going into this new modern desktop. It's not really a desktop system. It's a thick client to a services architecture. And you can glance through here at some of the improvements that we've been making since we've been together last. You've seen me mention about the ability to support unstructured text. That's locate XT, or dimensions, or new measurement tools, or better catalog preview tools, or the ability to, well, I don't want to read through these. What's coming is one of my favorite things, voxels, this sort of three-dimensional new data model, but also the ability to make Pro parallelize in the processing, particularly related to spatial analytics. The vision here is that Pro will is everybody's favorite professional GIS for mapping and analytics. It's the professional GIS workstation, if you want to call it that. But it's totally connected in with enterprises and with online, and can be extended with rich capabilities. One of those extensions is this Locate XT extension, which deals with a whole new data type of unstructured information. Second, technology pillar is ArcGIS Online. This is the cloud system. It has now nearly 7 million users who make billions of maps a day. Okay, this is not Google, who makes probably 10 billion a day, but it's pretty significant. This is a platform where people share their data in communities and leverage each other's work. ArcGIS Online is basically exactly the same thing as Portal in enterprise. It organizes data, it allows sharing, it allows collaboration, and has a lot of new capabilities that have been added. The one I'll call your attention to is user types, and I'll go further in that in just a moment. Since last year, we now support FedRAMP low and working on moderate. And what's coming in the next year is support for TLS. And I want you to, offline, not in my presentation, pay attention to this, because we're going to move over to supporting TLS 1.2. Okay, most of you don't care about this. How many of you care about this? 3 people, 7 people, 17, 29, 30. Okay, 40 people care about this. Okay, go to the workshop, learn about this. Also, support for Python notebooks, the stuff that we just saw inside of actually ArcGIS Online, and a variety of other things. With the winter release of ArcGIS Online, we introduced a new idea. This is role-based licensing. This means that I can have a viewer license, sometimes called level 1 in the past. I can have a much cheaper editor license than a level 2. I can have a field worker license, much cheaper than a level 2. I can have a creator license, exactly like a level 2. Or I can have a GIS professional license, which is ArcGIS Pro. You get this idea? In other words, instead of buying the software, an alternative is that for a short amount of time, I might want to buy a particular role at a much more affordable price. This is a kind of model that many of the software companies have introduced. We're introducing it as a complement to your existing work. And for many of you, this may not be relevant at all. But it's our ability to reach a much larger audience with more affordable software that runs on both ArcGIS Online, but also in ArcGIS Enterprise. You like this idea? You asked for it, so I thought you'd be more enthusiastic. It's all right, though. It's okay. The third pillar is ArcGIS Enterprise. And here, the server technology continues to advance. You'll notice the highlight. My favorite thing is the Python notebooks. Here again, glance through some of the new things that have happened in the last year. And what's coming in this year is things like containerization, so that we can further break up the computing matrix and distribute it on multiple machines. And a more intelligent search. And this applies equally to both more intelligent search in online, but also more intelligent search in enterprise. We've made ArcGIS Online a lot, ArcGIS Server, or sometimes called Enterprise. Boy, you can see why they want me off this stage. Maybe this is an internal joke, ArcInfo, ArcGIS Server, now it's ArcGIS. It's, all right, not funny. It's much easier to install. It's much easier to deploy, and we've integrated it with some of the DevOps tools like are shown here. For those of you who are interested in architecture, I'll simply glide through this slide to say Portal is the front-facing part of the ArcGIS server. Behind it, the GIS server, and then the other distributed servers behind it. Enterprise, Begot, Image Server, GeoEvent Server, GeoAnalytics Server. These are things that have been around for a while. But again, in the architecture, you can see how Notebook Server is implemented. You can scale it out to deal with very, very, very large big data problems. One of the keys, and I've shown this slide last year and the year before, I believe, to being able to realize the geospatial infrastructure is the ability to share. And that means content in one server can be easily shared both at the metadata level and also the actual apps and the content underneath it with another server, a kind of federated approach, a portal of portals, if you will. This is what has been the key to making the success at NGA, but also was the key work that was done at FEMA this spring or this fall in addressing the hurricane and disaster response. This is a kind of element that I think is not only going to help you in your own enterprise's work, as we saw with the core, but also will be the key for sharing and synchronization of work across the whole federal enterprise. Templates. How many of you use templates here? Really? Maybe I'll shut down the template division. Do you know about them? Solution templates are open source software. There's about 70 developers who work on them. They build solutions. These are tools, data models, workflows, widgets, dashboards within each of the different industries. Some of them are in state and local government. Some of them are in emergency management. ICAP is an example of it in the military space. Some of them in utilities. There's just an amazing number of them. I think it's 300 or 400, 450 it says in this slide. These are open sourced, they're fully documented, and also they're free, and they're also open source so that you can configure them and integrate them into your own work. And this is a way to save a lot of time, rapidly deliver value on your basic platform. So I invite you to look at these. I'm not trying to promote them, but in a way I am, because we invest a lot in this environment. These are really ready to use, fed by other users sharing this environment. Scott Ottman, who runs that team, is here, so go to his session if you want to see some amazing, amazing work. We have a renewed interest in the last year in developers, supporting the developer community. And we have two main technologies to do this. One of them is JavaScript API for web app construction, and the other one is runtimes. These are little components of the ArcGIS fabric that you can deploy as components inside of an app that you build yourself, particularly focused on devices. A rich environment of SDKs, and feeding this is a whole world of content which you guys already know about. These are focused on two markets, if you would think of it that way, within your organizations or beyond. One is the simple mapping location market, the kind of thing that a Google map, for example, would support. And the second one is geolocation apps. So we have a new business program for startups, making all of this available to them for virtually free, and then technical support to create an ecosystem of growth on top of, in association with the systems that you're building, your kind of infrastructure environment. And this is just taking off. It's quite an extraordinary thing to watch. Okay, I want to share a little bit more in depth on these two different technologies. First, the JavaScript API. Look at the words carefully. The JavaScript API, any of you using it here? Well, this is a little more, quite a few. What it is basically an API that puts a little bit of software in a browser. And you can build apps with that, map apps, or client-side analytics. So if you have a service that you're providing, you can build a JavaScript-based app that you can run in a browser or in a device very easily. So I invite you to do this. It just comes with the entire stack of technology, but developers are eating this up. They're able to not only do very fast visualization, but also data-driven analytics from any server. If you are not a developer, if you're not interested in building and learning things like JavaScript, there are two tools for building apps. One of them is the Web App Builder, and in the last year, over 500,000 new apps were released on top of ArcGIS Online alone, and probably a similar amount for enterprise. This allows me to take widgets and create an app for a particular solution, and similarly with App Studio for native devices, same basic concept. In minutes or hours, I can build an app and let it go. Okay. This is kind of my conclusion slide about ArcGIS. We've done a lot. Yeah, I've covered a lot of territory, actually. Was it valuable to you? Thank you. It's important to stay current, but it's also important to think about what's next. And this is our profile of what we're working on now in the development labs. We intend to release 10.7 in March. We released 10.3 a few weeks ago. That's the pace. And later in the summer, we'll be releasing 10.7.2 and Pro 2.5. Now, these are pretty well programmed, and they're in a channel. Next year, we're interested in doing more things. This list of words actually reflects very specific development projects that we're working on. And I'd like your feedback on this. I'd like you now just to take a look at them and pick out ones that you'd like to talk to us about in the next day or two or that interest you. We'd like feedback on it, and also the ones that are not on the list. This is also equally important to us because we can change things at some level. Our focus is on serving you doing your work better. Just keep that in mind. So this is our focus on ArcGIS. Now, I've mentioned it 3 times already this morning that Esri is also building a series of geo-enabled systems. These are not GISs. These are systems that look in some ways like a GIS. They're supporting structured workflows that are focused. For example, urban planning, or for example, mission awareness, or feature extraction off of imagery, or for public engagement, or for doing exploratory spatial BI analysis in the form of insights. So I'm asking you a question here. Do you understand the distinction between building apps on top of a GIS versus a standalone system? You understand this concept? It's important for me to get this across because many of you build similar sorts of applications on top of a GIS, don't you? Some of you do. Please say yes. You do. So this is a little bit of a break in the pattern. We'll continue to build that platform, but we're also exploring ourselves and also our business partners around the world how we can build standalone geo-enabled systems that work with a GIS, work with the infrastructure, but also are very focused and highly performant on one particular set of tools. And the first one I'll talk about is Insights. This is a very lightweight kind of GIS for exploratory spatial analysis. Sometimes we refer to it as spatial BI. It does mapping and analytics and charting and link analysis. It's opening up and democratizing many of the tools that you are working on in various ways. It's focused and right on the number with respect to spatial data exploration. Similarly, we have built a focused application for collaboration and problem solving. This started off integrating local governments with their citizens, but now it's become much more. We're going to see demonstrations of this right after the break, how it's being used to use initiatives to collaborate across agencies and within agencies and connect people. Similarly, we have a new technology called Indoors, which is about taking GIS concepts to indoor space management and navigation within complex buildings. We also have a new tool called Urban, which is all about urban planning. It's going to help cities around the world plan better by having a system of record keeping for projects and plans and for involving citizens in various ways. Finally, we have a new product called Excalibur. This is going to be very interesting for many of you in the imagery space, being able to observe imagery from a variety of sources and do feature extraction, imagery observation, and management of those observations in a collaborative environment. The last one is called mission awareness, ArcGIS Mission Awareness. And some of you have worked on missions before, like fires, hurricanes, or in military combat operations. This is a system that's focused on creating a mission spatially, organizing all the people in the mission, like all the firefighters, and then managing that in real time. This is a technology that we're building with PAR Corporation, and will provide situation and tactical awareness for everybody in the field at the same time. So I've shown you a new direction. We're going to continue working very hard on ArcGIS. That's one of our main strategies. But we're also focusing on these subsystems that are specialized and respond to very specific kinds of workflows. Do you understand this distinction? I've asked you before. Well, think about that and give us some feedback on it. But I believe that this is going to be an important pattern. We will not build hundreds of systems. Our partners will, and you will build out of ArcGIS components. But I think if we're going to advance our field and be more responsive, this is the kind of pattern that I see emerging.